Hello and welcome to my channel. Today is day 22 of my Crafter's Companion 2021 Advent Calendar series, and behind today's door we got this really decent size stamp of this sort of floral spray. And I know it's hard to see, but I actually have a mini slimline panel. This is cut to I think 3x6, and I'm going to stamp out using my VersaFine Onyx black ink a little bit of a border or corner design. So I want to dry this before I actually stamp around this edge, because I'm going to extend that design to go a little bit further on both ends. And so I'm just trying to pick a corner where it kind of looks like it'll nestle in really nicely where the previous design leaves off. And I do plan on doing a little bit of watercolor pencil work, so that's why I've used my VersaFine ink. And I contemplated stamping another bit of that stamp design in the opposite corner, but I decided against it for that card. So instead, I cut myself a panel that would fit a US A2 size card. So this is cut to 4¼ by 5½, and I'm going to essentially do something similar. So I'm going to start off by stamping the corner and then extending that image out by just kind of rotating the stamp and finding a spot where I feel like it extends nicely. And one thing is, I did, especially with VersaFine ink, you need to be kind of careful with getting inky fingers, because it does take a while to dry. And I am stamping off onto a paper liner, and so that ink isn't drying at all. It's just kind of sitting on the surface of the liner, and I'm hoping to spot when it happens, because at some point here I actually get a little fingerprint smudge on, actually more than one. I got like a couple of fingerprint smudges on this panel. And so I won't actually end up using this panel, because I think I still could use it, because you can always put maybe some ribbon or a butterfly or something to cover up smudges. But I ended up with, I think, 3 smudges, and you can even see it there on camera. There's one really large one and then a couple of smaller ones. But I wanted to keep this footage in just so that you can kind of see what I was going for in terms of the design. And here I'm going in with my eraser here to try to get out some of those smudges, but it can only do so much, really. So I like the design, and I might try to recreate something similar, but to that A2 size panel. But I end up not using it in this card making session. So I pulled out my Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer watercolor pencils, and I'm just doing some very messy coloring, because I'll go in with a small paintbrush, as you can see here, and then pull that color out. And what I love about these color pencils is they emulsify so well, and so you don't see any of those pencil strokes. That's why you can be very scribbly with your pencil, and I just don't press down very firmly, but I just like to just scribble that color on, and then once that gets hit with water, it just melds and emulsifies really beautifully and spreads out to give you that nice watercolor effect. And again, same thing here. I'm just coloring in very loosely with the dry pencil, and then once you take your water brush to it, all that color starts to come to life, and you don't even see those pencil strokes. So much fun. I don't use my watercolor pencils as often as I should, so I definitely am gonna try to make it a point to pull them out more, because I always have a lot of fun with them. And I am only using just regular cardstock. This isn't watercolor paper, so I think if you were to use watercolor paper, you'd probably get even better results, because that paper is meant to take a lot of water, and the watercolor medium just works a little bit differently on watercolor paper. And this thanks stamp is from earlier, I think a couple days back. So I thought this would be perfect as my sentiment. And again, I'm going to use my VersaFine ink. And before I lift that off, I'm going to bring over some clear embossing powder. And I don't plan on coloring this in. I just want to keep it black and white. And that keeps the color, the focus, in the corner where that floral spray is. And I thought the scale of the thanks sentiment works perfectly on a mini slimline card like this. But I did want to make it a little bit more special by adding that clear embossing powder to give it that little bit of shine and that enamel feel to it. And so I think that really helps to give it some prominence, even though it's not going to get colored in. And I'm working through my stash here to try to find some cardstock, because I do want to add. I end up not adding a full mat that goes all the way around, but rather I'm going to almost use my solid color cardstock like I would use my Love from Lizzie's pinstripe stickers, where I'm just going to add a stripe of it at the bottom and the top. And so I'm just figuring out here what size I've cut everything to, so that I can get a piece of scrap that's going to be large enough. And this is very nearly there, so I'll just trim off my panel a little bit, and then I'll start adding the little strips of blue. And the reason why I went with blue is because the green that I used in the leaves have a bit of a blue tint to them. So I thought it would be a nice way to kind of highlight that a little bit more, or bring a little bit more attention to that. And so I've just cut myself some nice half-inch strips here that I'll attach to the back of my main panel. And I decided that on the bottom panel, I'm going to have more of this blue showing. And then on the top border, I'll have it a little bit of a thinner border, just to do something a little bit different, so that it feels more weighted towards the bottom. And once this is all lined up, then I'll get this onto my card front. And not sure where I went wrong in the trimmings, but somehow or other I found that I still needed to trim off a little bit from that top panel. And I think what happened is maybe my strips are a little bit crooked, but once you have it trimmed off, I think it'll hardly be noticeable. So, and then basically my card is going to be pretty much complete once I get this onto my card front. And I think this mini slimline is actually cut to 3 by 5.5, or 3.5 by 5.5, and that way I can actually get 2 of them from a US letter size card. So not quite 3 by 6, but it's a slightly more efficient use of my cardstock. Well, I hope that you liked today's card, and we're just about at the end of our Advent Calendar series, and it's been a blast so far. I hope you come back tomorrow to see what's behind tomorrow's door. Thank you so much, and until then, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.